Hello, my feathered friends, and welcome back to Video Game Therapy, where I talk to you about the weird things that have been on my mind, and they usually pertain to philosophy at this point. Today we're back with Alto's Adventure, and I just, it's a good game. But today, as the title says, I wanted to talk about frickin' imagination. So I've been reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And we're going to go ahead and wipe out on this rock, and I'm going to switch to Zen mode. So book 9, number 7, chapter 7, I don't really know what I'd call it, is wipe out imagination. Check impulse. Quench desire. Keep the governing self in its own control. End quote. I don't know if I said start quote, but it's fine. Now, this is a very stoic concept of the governing self, but that's not the part I wanted to talk about. I was launched into thought, let me put it that way, by wiping out your imagination and quenching your desire. Now, I read a book not too long ago called The Undoing Project, which was about Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman was nominated for a Nobel Prize in Behavioral Economics. If you've ever heard anything about heuristics, social bias, they changed the field of economics. That's Daniel Kahneman, Amos Tversky. There's also this concept in psychology of, this is the context, I will hopefully get over it soon and get into what my mind's been thinking about. There's also the concept of expected reward beating out actual reward. For example, if you tell yourself, I'm gonna have a cookie if I complete my homework, then you complete your homework and you have the cookie, you feel fantastic. But if you're doing your homework and you keep thinking about having that cookie, for every given moment, technically there's decay, but I'm not going to go into specifics. For every given moment that you're thinking about having the cookie, the imagination of having that cookie is going to be more rewarding to your brain than when you actually get the cookie. You've expected it so much that at this point, that when you finally get your hands on it, reality it's not too much different than what you've imagined. So, speaking of imagined, with this concept in mind, I am someone who has a fairly vivid imagination. I imagine scenarios, meeting people, talking to people. That's just something that's been pretty relevant lately in my mind. You imagine yourself, this semester I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna study so hard, and that imagining those scenarios. And I'm someone with a very vivid imagination. And at the end of the Undoing Project, Daniel Kahneman was nominated for the Nobel Prize. Unfortunately, Tversky passed away. There was a very good chance Tversky would have been nominated for it, just based on that whole history, but I'm not going to go into the biography of them. That book was fantastic. I recommend it if you're interested in the story behind those two amazing people. I apologize if this is quiet. I will try to do my best in editing. I'm working with limiters today. A little experimentation. But this is a topic I have a lot to say about. So anyway, and at the end of the book, this isn't really a spoiler, but Kahneman he's expecting a call on some morning that if he's awarded with the Nobel Prize, they're gonna call him and say, "Hey, what up, Danny? Here you go." Like you made it, essentially. And if he didn't, then he wouldn't get the Nobel Prize, or he wouldn't get the call. And so he's sitting there, and the book ended with kind of an inkling to something I believe he later wrote about the expected reward phenomenon that I explained. He said that he didn't let himself imagine what he would do when he got the Nobel Prize, because he found that what he imagined, if it was possible, he lost his desire to do it. And I've been feeling much of the same thing, but I kind of want to finish this little story here. Anyway, so he didn't get the call in the morning. And so then he let himself imagine what he would do, and then the phone rang. So the book ended very, 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 very well. But essentially, I'm not going to go into the specifics of the book or his life, but I have this world in my head where there's this protagonist, there's this whole aspect of these superpowers I'm not going to cover that. I think it's a really good idea. And this world has been iterating in my head for years. I've, you know, since I was like 6, for as long as I can remember, I have been imagining this world. And I don't think that's a bad thing, you know, imagining, you know, I have superpowers, these super abilities or whatever. Because that's never going to happen. It is physically impossible to do, you know, super speed or teleport or control electricity, you know, whatever. So those things, imagine them. They're not possible. But something I used to do a lot was imagine what could happen. If I sit here and imagine myself getting an A on an exam, then I will be more inclined to study for it, because I'll make myself feel the joy now. And anyway, when I was reading book 9 of Meditations, this all came rushing back to me, and I've been thinking a lot about it lately, because I don't know why I feel weird talking about it, about meeting someone. And it's, I've already lost my train of thought a little bit. Essentially, I've always relied on my imagination to incentivize me. I could use I might use 1,000 subscribers again, but specifically in terms of like meeting someone you've just, you know, spoken to or you look up to or whatever. And you fantasize, you imagine about meeting them and what that might go like. And now there have been problems with this. I've acknowledged that there are problems with this, because you are, in essence, when you imagine your encounter with someone, suppose you want to tell someone you like them, right? And you imagine the scenario in your head. Well, first of all, if it goes the way you want it to in your head, then you might lose desire to say it in person. And this was kind of a realization I did after I told someone this, but it was this weird realization, and I think I talked about this on my, did I talk about simulation theory? I don't know, but the concept of like, if you tell someone you like them, and even if you were to be put in a simulation that gave you the exact response they would give you, yes, no, whatever, it still wouldn't happen in reality. And the problem is with imagination, whether you're like me and have a really vivid imagination, or you don't, or you just don't use imagination often, or you're not a very visual person, let me say that, put it that way. If you think about these things, then they become real in a sense, because our perception of the world is just this model in our head. So if we imagine something, you know, someone responds to us saying, oh God, not again, no. Oh man. I feel like this happened last time too. Well, I died. Whew, I'm surprised I kept going. What was it? Oh yeah, so, my thoughts are all over the place. Hopefully people are kind of following, and I really, this is something I'll be thinking about for a while. Let's say you're working on a book, right? And you think about, for my case, so, okay, there are these 4 things I came up with that I'm not allowed to imagine. I'll use those as an example. Meeting someone and talking to them again or whatever. I don't want to imagine that, right? Because if I do, then when it's specific to a person, the problem there is that, you create this model of the person in your head. And so when you do actually meet them, they might not be at all who you think they're going to be. And in this instance, it's online friend in real life, right? So it's very dangerous. Because this model, you might slowly stray away further from the truth. And not only that, but you might lose desire to meet this person, or to say something to this person, or whatever it may be. And so that's not good. You know, if I imagine the conversations happening with someone in my head, then what's the point in talking to them online or in person, right? There's no point to that. In theory, very many people will have the distinction between, have a clear, like this idea, right, might sound to some totally insane. Like, what do you mean your thoughts are the same? But in a lot of ways, it's like, think about when you've dreamt, right? And I don't know if anyone else has experienced this. I know at least a few of my friends have talked about this before with me, just because I brought it up. But sometimes you're like, wait, did that actually happen, or was that just a dream? Or did I misremember that? Your brain is a fickle thing. So, instance one, I'm trying not to imagine myself meeting this person because I don't want to lose all desire to meet this person or to talk to them more, right? I don't want to imagine conversations with them because I, A, want to actually talk with them, and B, don't want to, how do I put this? Don't want to create a false version of them in my head. And I guess I could come back to this later, but I'm not. But I've realized that, because I started to imagine this the other day. Fantasize. I feel like fantasize is a more proper word, but it implies something else. Like it implies, I don't know, something more negative. Just to me, that's my own interpretation of it. So I'm going to continue using imagination or imagine. It removes question, I guess. Anyway. And I couldn't get myself to imagine what this person might respond or what their reaction to the scenario would be, because I already made this rule for myself of no doing it. But then I started realizing, wait, I haven't wanted to talk to them anyway. So I fear that in attempting to tell myself, okay, don't imagine what it's like to actually meet this person, I'm blurring the line and I'm squashing the actual desire to meet and talk with this person. And this is when right? Does that make sense to anybody? All of a sudden it was like, okay, don't imagine this, became, don't believe that this can happen. Oh, there are the words I've been looking for. Thank you. I still want it to happen. But I think the way that I'm saying, hey, Mark, don't imagine this because you'll lose all desire, also means don't allow yourself to think about it. Okay, I really like the way I put that. So when Kahneman doesn't let himself imagine what he's going to do with that phone call, he didn't prevent himself from imagining that he actually got it, but he prevented himself imagining what he would do when he got it. So perhaps I can imagine what it might be meeting this person, what the setting might be like, but once anything past that starts, I should stop. Okay, I'm gonna move on to my other 3 examples because I made 4 rules for myself, sort of to quote unquote test this theory out. But also expected reward versus actual reward is something I am a very large believer in. So the other one was, I guess to keep it relevant, it was, don't imagine yourself having 1,000 subscribers. And this one was, I think this one is good. Man, it comes back to the same thing about, removing all desire. Or like not imagining says, don't do it. Because I've been running Cowdino for 8 years now. April 2013 is when 7 years, whatever. I think I started making videos in 2014 or 2015. 2014 sounds about right. Anyway, and even with the lifestyle channel that I do now, I upload 1 video a week. Saturdays, 10 a.m. If you're watching this on a Saturday, go ahead and check that out. If you just look up Mark Big and Emily, you would appreciate that. Oh. I think someone's home. Anyway. It's just, no, never mind. So there's this concept. I used to imagine, 1,000 subscriber Q&A, like hitting that, 5,000 subscriber milestone. And, I'd imagine having comments. And one of the things that I let my mind go to a lot was like having a lot of people on stream, like a few hundred people on a live stream, like actually watching me and being able to engage with that many people. And I think this is a good example because it shows that if I can already enjoy that in my head, right? If that perfect world of having 1,000 subscribers with the Q&A and having a few hundred viewers on stream, I think having that notion of it, having that in my head removes all desire to actually have it happen in reality. And I've really noticed that with YouTube, and I think that's important to note. One other Yeah, so maybe that makes it a little more clear, because I feel like the person one, I'm kind of being vague about it because it's both uncomfortable and a little personal. Perhaps one and the same reason there, but yeah, the YouTube one might make a lot more sense. So now with every video, you know, I really want this video to blow up. That would be fantastic. I'd love to see people get value out of it, but I'm not gonna imagine as if it does. When I released Duolingo versus Rosetta Stone Part 1, I hoped it would blow up. I hoped that it would get a ton of views, and that would then incentivize me to make Duolingo versus Rosetta 2, the follow-up to my experiment. It didn't blow up, but Duolingo versus Rosetta Stone 2 did blow up. In a sense, it's got about 12,000 views now that it's accumulated over the past year, and it's been getting hundreds of views a day, between 200 and 300 views a day for the past 3 or so months. I don't think that adds up, actually. Maybe between 150, 200, something like that. Anyway, it's got like 12,000 views now. And, you know, a lot of people looking it up, a lot of people have left great comments, and it's every time I get a comment, I'm like, yes, let's go. But I think this is the only real like instance where I put this whole don't imagine thing into play. With every video I upload now, you know, 6 productivity systems in 5.5 minutes. How I type really fast, which I'll actually talk about because that's been getting a ton of views lately. I changed the title to clickbait it a little bit, and 165 words per minute, a clickbaity average. But the keto video with each video now, I think, okay, I think personally that what I talk about in this video has value, that it can help someone out there. That this video, whatever it's talking about, I think personally, I believe that what I'm saying in it can have value. The video I made on reading, for example, it wasn't an objectively good video, but I had a lot of fun making it, and I think what I said could resonate with a lot of people, and it seemed to resonate with a few based on the 3 or 4 comments I got. And if it doesn't blow up, that's fine. But the important thing is I don't imagine that it will. Because now that it's got 40 views within 48 hours, or that it got 40 views within 48 hours or whatever, that was like, nice, let's go. So hope for the best in that case, but just expect that it doesn't really get anywhere, you know? So I'm gonna use the YouTube example aside. The other two, what are they? 4.0. In the past, I've kind of gone in with the mindset of like, all right, you know, I'm gonna picture myself getting a 4.0 every day. So, but that never happened. And personally, 4.0 is, sorry, I should explain in case anyone's not American or whatever, or not in high school or whatever. A 4.0 is a perfect average. If you get all A's, you have a 4.0. If you get all A minuses, you have a 3.8 GPA, grade point average, I think. It's weird. So I was really hoping like, you know, if I imagine that I have this perfect average or whatever, then whatever, but you know, it'll be great. I'll motivate myself more, but I truly think that I need to stop kind of thinking that. I need to stop thinking about the end goal and just about what's in front of me. And I think that's been a helpful mentality. I don't really want to talk about that one much because I don't really think of 4.0s are that important in the first place. To me, in terms of grades, and maybe this is a topic I could talk about in the future on because I think it's an important one. Grades, God, the American system's so stupid. You need a 95 and between 95 and 100 on in usual to get an A. To get like, there's just so much stress on perfection. In Paris, it's 80 to 100 to get an A, at least equivalent to the school system. You know, 16 out of 20. Anyway, that digression aside. That discretion is the reason why, I don't know, in high school I was in, I'm not gonna talk about, I don't want anyone to compare themselves to me, so I'm not gonna be specific, but my grades improved a lot and the classes I took became harder. I did not start out in the highest level classes. I did not end up in all of the highest level classes, but I did end up in a few, and I self-studied for some high level exams. And I think that grades as progress are huge. If you're getting, you know, B's, C's, maybe even D's in your first few semesters of college or your first few years of high school, first of all, know that it does not define the rest of your life. Once you get to college, your high school grades don't matter. No one gives a crap. Just want to make that clear. And don't give up. Don't say, oh, like, well, it's done now. Improve, because to me, I think if you go from B's and C's and D's to A's and B's, or even to B's and C's, that's massive. That's huge. Shows improvement, and it shows passion. Anyway, well, improvement shows passion. So that's, that's the main digression. That aside, though, on the other hand, don't imagine getting yourself the 4.0, because in reality, it's not happening, but in your head, it is. So what's the difference? If I imagine I have a 4.0 right now, if I imagine December 10th rolls around, or December 24th, whatever, the end of the semester rolls around and I've gotten an A in every single class, great. As far as my reality goes, I have a 4.0. Have I written any of my 4 essays yet? No. Have I taken any of my 2 exams for operating systems? Nope. Have I done anything for cognition? Well, yeah, a little bit, but like 1/50th of the entire grade. I haven't done anything yet. So, I don't know. I'll leave it at that. That one I'll let you let it stew in your own heads for a little bit, because I think grades are of different importance to everyone. If I had a 4.0 in college, in high school, which I believe anyone can achieve, a lot of people don't want to achieve it for many reasons. For me, I think if I had one, then this channel, the lifestyle channel, Cowdino Arcade, Minecraft, the ability to program, my ability to program, I should say, they wouldn't exist. If I spent more time on school, those things wouldn't exist. And that, I believe, is almost certain. Sure, I spent a lot of time on YouTube and stuff that I could have done doing this, or could have done studying, but everything factors into everything. That one video you watched 3 years ago could be one of the reasons, one of the catalysts that you're doing what you're doing. God, this music, man. So yeah. Anyway, the fourth thing is, I wrote them on my whiteboard a while ago, but I memorized them. Don't imagine meeting person. Don't imagine 1,000 subscribers, or don't imagine publishing Seashell. So Seashell is a game that I am quote unquote working on. In freshman year of high school, a friend of mine wrote a short film script. Senior year, I did an independent study in 3D animation. I thought I was gonna make a short film in a semester. I think I knew deep down that was never going to happen. That it was a lot, but I just wanted to see how far I could get. But as I've learned in these past, 3 years, it's like, if you don't have micro goals to get to your current, final goal, you're never gonna get to your final goal. Anyway, I think one of the things that might have held me back was how often I imagined, in the credits, I'm gonna put my photography teacher who did the independent study with me, and the animation teacher I had for that weekend animation class I took at a local university. And I would dedicate it to this person, and people would be sharing it, and it would go viral. And just recently, about half a year ago, I said, I'm gonna make this into a game instead. It was when I finished Edith Finch. I was like, wow, I want to make a walking sim. And I think Seashell is a great plot for it. So that happened, and I think this was like 2 weeks ago. And this was, I realized that after I'd imagined this, I felt good. I was like, hell yeah. But then I was like, then I didn't feel like I wanted to sit down and work on Seashell. I have no desire to finish Seashell right now, to even start on it. I think my art's holding me back. I just need to do it, right? And I think that imagining those scenarios has held me back. And, to a certain degree, maybe even worse degree, when Seashell is published and it doesn't launch and it doesn't go off, it doesn't get $150,000 on Kickstarter or whatever, then I'm going to be disappointed and I'm going to lose all incentive, which is dangerous, which is one of those dangers of imagination. So when Aurelius says, get rid of imagination, quench desires, that's what it means. If you imagine something, you're destroying your desires. And if something doesn't work out as it would in the optimal world in your head, that person saying yes, you meeting that person, having 1,000 subscribers, publishing this game you've been working on for years, well, you know, had in your head that you want to work on for years. And then it doesn't turn out that way. What do you do then? I will say that just making it real is one of the best feelings in the world. Because I imagined the situation of like telling someone I liked them, and then I just did it. Stoic philosophy came to me at the right time, and I was like, I can control one thing about this situation, and that is how I react, or how I phrase my question. Well, two things, I guess. How I create my question and how I respond to their response. Not just react to a situation, respond. So I did it. I relinquished control over what their response might be. And I think a lot of that control came from imagining what it might be, what I would want it to be, what things I decided to say, that means this is going to be what they say. You know, bias. Anyway, that aside, there's also the question of, does not imagining also kill the desire? Is there a balance between these two things? And that is the core of this video game therapy today. That is what I've been struggling so much with these last like 3 days. Like all of a sudden I'm learning Russian for this reason, and I'm like, is this really the right, like I've amped up my Russian learning. It's like, is this really the right reason? But hey, if anything pushes you, let it push you, right? Oh man, that probably didn't make much sense, but it's connected. If you connect the dots, let me know in the comments down below. Oh man, that's, yeah, I don't think I've verbalized that thought. But hey, if it drives you, it drives you. So yeah, like, is not imagining also bad? If I don't imagine ever meeting this person, then am I also quenching the possibility of it happening? I guess in terms of Stoic philosophy, from my limited knowledge of it, the possibility of it happening is not up to you. So whether or not you believe it's possible is irrelevant. All that matters is that you take advantage of the possibility if and when it comes by. So to what extent do we act, right? But, oh, that's another... Whew. Man, this has been a longer video game therapy. I think the first one was super long, and they've been pretty short since, but man, I really just went off today. If you understand what I'm talking about, I would love to hear it in the comments below, or your thoughts. And if you have thoughts or questions, you can email me. The email is in the description of this video. I'd love to talk about things. Plus, new questions that get me thinking are my favorite types of questions. So yeah, maybe that'll be where I ended off. I love imagining things, and if it's imagining something that is either impossible or virtually impossible, saving, like stopping a train, I don't know, something. If it's never gonna, like, no human will ever stop a train with their bare hands, so why not imagine it? It's just fun. So don't kill your imagination, but when you're imagining a scenario, when you're picturing getting that 100 on a test that you're studying for, just keep in mind, I'm studying and I'm thinking about getting this 100. Have I lost desire to study? Because you don't have that 100 yet. Just remind yourself, at the very least, if you're choosing not to study, or if you're choosing to imagine that you get that 100, just remind yourself that you don't have it yet. Because that could delude your thinking. And if you're imagining that you tell someone you like them, just remember that you've never said anything. That person, no idea. And you'll never know what they think either. So with that, I think we'll end off for today. Man, I really wanted to talk about that. And video game therapy genuinely makes me feel so much better. I've been having a rough past 2 days or so, just kind of sad boy hours. I think I've kind of been burning myself out, which I talked about in my last video game therapy. My willpower is lessening. Maybe I'll talk about self-discipline next week. But alas, thanks again for watching. Have a good one. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. This is just me rambling, and I'd love nothing more than to make it a discussion. So, peace out, and as always, don't forget to stay awesome.